And then I could just stay inside of it when it stays live, right?
Yes.
It's all like you can have that. You don't have to go stay inside of it when it stays live, right? Yes. It's all like you can have that. You don't have to go stay inside of it when it stays live, right? Yeah. It's all like you can have that. You don't have to go stay inside of it when it stays live. It's all like you can have that.
Which presentation? I have it already. Which presentation?
Funded comments on meetings is inappropriate. This is being recorded. That's right. Good. That's exactly right. You forget that many a time.
I know nothing about this. I know nothing about this.
It's all random wrong, sorry. It wasn't like I wasn't looking for it. It just happened. You told it to me. It's like, I'm sorry about that. Hey, everybody will be getting started shortly.
Oh, Atlantic City, that's just like an exercise and, right, we're supposed to economically revitalize the city of Boston. Have you seen the movie with Susan Sarandon?
I have seen
Good movie. And Burt Reynolds. Burt Lancaster, sorry. Burt Lancaster.
Yeah.
Hi.
How's everyone? Today.
Pretty good. You've been in my house, actually. Diane's my wife.
Oh, yeah.
So
Beautiful home. Good. How are you?
it's actually looking a lot better.
Yeah, y'all are noticing.
A little more, yeah, a little more. Living good with you?
Yeah, as good as it can go. There's a bunch of things that are wrong. There's a bunch of things that are right. I'm trying to live life in balance. It is equal myself for that.
Good observation.
Take a lot of stuff on the chin.
You got the cushion there, so.
Yeah, right?
Oh, no, I was thinking, I know.
Like I was like.
What's your name? Kenny. Kenny, yeah.
We didn't think it was.
Yeah.
Max, yeah.
Oh, where did you go in that meeting?
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
This is my wife, Diane.
My family did.
The mosquitoes there in the summer, so.
Yeah, they're pretty ferocious over there. Anywhere by the Utah Creek. They just.
Yeah, definitely.
And we're only a block and a half away there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, very close.
Harvey's.
Oh, once I get back, so it's a cider sheet. Oh, yeah, yeah. Let me grab that. Yeah, I was.
And then Barney got light, so I think like a couple of times.
A little bit more.
To, bed and breakfast.
Okay. Are you on the team?
I just sort of.
Well, you tell me what after these, and they're gonna recruit you, man.
I'll look out.
We're using on the weekend.
Sorry.
You're a board member, sign the board sheet, and if you're a guest, please sign the guest sheet. We are live on YouTube and we are recording our Zoom.
Okay, so,
We're ready to send.
all right,
Feel free.
okay.
Uh-huh.
Good evening. This is the March meeting of the Community Board 2 Land Use and Housing Committee. I'm Christine Hunter, the chair, Ramit Kumar, the vice chair. And we have a fairly, hopefully efficient agenda tonight. One item of new business, but
She said she'll be in at 6:30.
that should be fine. So the first thing is you're from Big Reuse
Yes,
and welcome. Hi.
thank you.
Do you want to
You'll
introduce
sit
yourself?
at the end of the table over there.
Sure, what, you sit here?
That helps, sure.
I'll sit here for a little while, sure.
Do you have a presentation or you're just gonna talk?
I'm just gonna talk. I mean, I could send you. Look, you have a bunch of things right here already. I could send you an email and you could pull it up, but I was just gonna talk for a little while.
Okay.
So I'm here tonight representing Big Reuse. I live in Community Board 1. I have community gardening in CB2, and I work at Big Reuse. We have a warehouse in Brooklyn, but our compost processing site is under the Queens Bridge. We had another one in Gowanus that was closed. It was supposed to be rebuilt, but since the budget got cut, it's not getting rebuilt. We've been kind of trying to defend this space in Queensbridge for a while. In 2020, Parks decided that they were gonna not renew our license.
I remember.
After 3 years, we spent $500,000 getting the site up and running, and then they said that they're not gonna renew the license. And this was also after there was like some talk of like, we should just transfer the land to DSNY. And then DSNY was like, no, there's such a great relationship with Parks. Why would we do that? So, this is not the first time I've come to
Right.
the land use or with the community board at large to talk about this specific issue. And I do apologize. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I do like to start just by saying that I acknowledge that the previous custodians of this land and all not these people. And I do try to walk in a good way and participate in work and projects that will bring honor and dignity back into the lands, waters, and air of Lenape and Hokin. And this is why I'm here tonight. I am here professionally because I do work for Big Reuse. I was part of the Western Queens Compost Initiative before Big Reuse was a project of the New York City Compost Project. And that was a volunteer-run project. And it was run by master composters in Queens, including myself. And we had an informal agreement with a couple people at the NRG division of Natural Resources Group within Parks Department, and they let us compost on a couple parking spots under the Queens Bridge. We got an official license with the Parks Department in 2017. That was about 7 years after we had started composting under the Queens Bridge. They moved us to this location that we're at now. And in 2020, they told us that they were going to remove our composting site along with the composting site in Red Hook and the composting site in the Lower East Side in Stuyvesant Cove, and possibly the composting site in Governor's Island, because they said that composting was not appropriate use on Parks land. That has been refuted by the New York Lawyers for Public Interest and the New York Bar for the environment on the Committee on Environment. I'm happy to provide these things. We've been back and forth with Parks. Now they're saying that because of the development of the Baby Queensbridge Park, which I and everyone at Big Reuse fully supports, they're saying that they need to displace us so that they can move their parking onto our site. We've been trying to have a full-throated conversation with Parks, the local commissioner, and the commissioner. Before it was Commissioner Silver, now it's Commissioner Donahue, and they refuse to actually speak to us. They just say no. We acknowledge that they need and deserve parking and to be able to store their materials. There's a piece of the park that's right by the bike lane where they're occupying right now. It's just north of where our processing site is. It's a relatively small piece. And they're going to have to move everything from there and do something else with it. They want to take the site that we have developed, the Department of Sanitation has spent $500,000 of taxpayer money to develop into a world-class award-winning composting site and turn it into parking. They have parking already, and it's highly underutilized. There's a piece of the parking lot that they have that is approximately the same size as the part that they're gonna be developing into open space that is only utilized for employee parking. They don't store materials. Every once in a while, they'll have like a Parks truck over there, but it's really just civilian parking for Parks employees. And there really needs to be a conversation about this, and Parks has continually denied to actually engage us in a real dialogue about this. So we've got a letter of support from CB2 before.
That's what I was
And we've
remembering.
had,
Yeah.
we got a 6-month extension in 2020. We've had several 6-month extensions. And now it's really coming down to the wire. They told us definitively that they will not be giving us another extension, that we will be evicted on July 30th. We've got the support of Councilman Juan, Councilman Caban, and Councilman Shankar. We've got the support of a few other council members in Brooklyn and Manhattan. We've got the support of Queensboro President Donovan Richards. And we're continuing to get support from assembly members. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name right now. Zoran, Donnie is in support. We have letters from all these people. And we're about to, and Julie won, we're finalizing a letter for her that's going to be signed on by a lot of other council members. And we know that it's an uphill battle, but we just want to answer any questions that you have, because we just released a petition today, and the Parks Department is replying to that petition immediately with kind of a backhanded sort of letter saying that, you know, there's nothing they can do, and they've already had these discussions. So we really encourage people to sign the letter, and I really want to answer any of your questions, because it's not that confusing, but the way that the agencies are, that Parks in particular is handling this, they're kind of convoluting the discussion by not having it and saying that they've addressed things that they have not. So I'm just here to answer any questions, provide as much input as possible, and really encourage the community board to stand with us, you know, send out this petition if it's appropriate, I don't know. Or whatever else can be done, a reissuing of the letter, because before it was great, it got us the extensions, but those extensions are coming to an end. So with that, if anybody has any questions or wants any clarifications, I'm really happy to do that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the elephant in the room, do you have any insight into what the heck Parks wants? I mean, what's this about? Why are things being so?
I don't. I have theories, but that is only conjecture, and I don't want to offer conjecture in this setting. I can say that they need a place to store their materials, and like I understand that, but they do have a very underutilized parking area that would easily accommodate. I took a couple of videos earlier today, and it's really clear that they're underutilizing both of these storage and parking areas, and they could be combined into one. I think it's something to do really high up, because they initially tried to use this legal argument to evict us and the Lower East Side Ecology Center and Earth Matter and Red Hook Farms. And now they're backing away from this legal thing, and they're saying that it's because of the Baby Queensbridge Park that they have to evict us. And I didn't mention this earlier, but I attended the scoping meetings for that park. And there were lots of people who stated very clearly that they love the composting site and they want it to stay, in addition to all the other great things that they were looking forward to in the park. And if the parks isn't going to pay attention to overwhelming demand in scoping meetings, then why do they even have them?
So then I have one other question, and I'll speak. I'm aware, from what I understand, the sanitation composting program is being cut.
Defunded.
Is being defunded.
Yes.
So just as a comment, it just seems crazy to
But
be
Donovan has said that Queens will make up the difference.
make up the difference. Okay.
I mean, I don't know how.
So the current composting, you know, the current composting in Queens that sanitation is doing is going to continue.
That's going to continue.
Could you just explain, because there's a lot of new members here that weren't here a few years ago,
Sure.
or what, you know, where you get the materials that you compost and what you do with them. you generate.
Of course, I'm happy to do that, but I do want to, Donovan Richards had said that he's gonna close the gap in funding. The New York City Compost Project is no longer a project of the Department of Sanitation. If the borough president and council members fund parts of it, then it's a project of the borough president, and council members. So that, I just want to be really clear about that. So Big Reuse does a lot of stuff at our composting facility, which we also had outreach associates, which was, about a dozen different, people who were contracted to go door to door, knock on people's door and tell them about the brown bin program and how to participate. Because as we all know, it's going to be mandated and people are going to get fines. So it's important to educate people about how to participate before the fines come into place. So that's one thing that we did. But at this processing site, which won an award for the best processing site by the U.S. Council on Composters in 2020, which was the first year it was eligible to get the award, we receive food scraps that are collected at food scrap drop-offs throughout New York City, primarily Manhattan, Bronx, Brooklyn, and Queens. Really, Queens and North Brooklyn, but we get it from other places too. We collect, we used to accept, before the budget was cut, food scraps from green markets that Grow NYC would truck to our facility. And we hosted our own food scrap drop-offs at libraries and commuter stops. And we had community-run or volunteer-led food scrap drop-offs that we used to host at lots of other locations, community gardens and just other libraries where we weren't able to staff it. But we would accept all these food scraps that were collected at these local drop-off points. And we would process them right there at the site. We get collections of wood chips from local landscapers and cemeteries that are taking care of their tree canopy. And we mix that with the food scraps. We also take parks, weeds, and debris in that region of the parks in Queens. And we mix all that together and it decomposes in a controlled process called composting, which is the natural process of rot, but with human ingenuity and technology applied to it, so it's faster and more efficient. I won't go into the high-tech stuff that we have on site, but it is a high-tech site. We did spend $500,000 engineering all of it. And it does work really well. In fact, it's the technology that was implemented on Staten Island in the large industrial composting facility at Fresh Kills. Same technology, just bigger.
So you said what the timing is, when do they say you're gonna be displayed?
June 30th.
June 30th. And are they saying that the baby park renovation won't go on if you don't move?
No, not at all. They haven't said anything about, they're not even entertaining, they haven't said anything about us not moving. But the baby Queensbridge Park will be built. All of the parts that are accessible to the public will be constructed. The part that we occupy, it has high voltage electricity and it has some other things on site that disallows it from being occupied and enjoyed by the public for passive recreation.
But they still need the space that you occupy for baby park, or will this be segmented? I mean, baby park has been like a huge priority, both composting, but baby park has been also for many, many years. So it's important, I think, to community boards that baby park be
It is very
fully
important. We fully support.
So how does your space, how much of baby park does your space take up?
We're on half an acre of land, which will take up zero space in baby Queensbridge Park, because that half an acre is not legally allowable for public use. People cannot go onto that site, just generally.
So now you're there,
We've
and
been,
they're saying they're gonna use your space for parking.
yes.
And what's gonna happen to their space? They're gonna use that space too, or they're gonna use that for construction?
But that's my question, because I live near there, I know it well, but also if you take the N train, you see it, there's plenty of parking, that's never used. I mean, there's all sorts of places where there's weeds, you couldn't park, but if they cleaned it up, you could. So it's I don't know,
Staging, or is it?
it makes no sense to me.
Like, what is the use? I mean, I guess we can have parks come and talk about what they're gonna, how they're gonna stage.
I would highly recommend that because I have the same question. I don't understand why they need this space. They have there is lots of areas to park and they are really underutilized. I mean, it's kind of shameful, the amount of underutilization that is happening under that bridge. And the fact that city employees parked on the baby Queensbridge Park and made it go away is also a shame, because that's the history of this site. They had that park and city employees parked their personal vehicles on it and they took that park.
Sounds like you have a lot of the heavy hitter elected officials supporting you already. Why can't they get a meeting with Parks on this?
I wish I could answer you on that. I mean, like I said, I don't want to put conjecture into this meeting, but going back to your question, I don't know. No one's talking to us. No, they're just telling us to leave.
Have you had direct contact with the mayor's office? Because
No, we've been trying, I mean, like, right now, Big Reuse is embroiled with two major agency fights. The Department of Sanitation just defunded us, and Parks is continuing to try to evict us, and we've tried repeatedly to engage with the mayor, but it's not, the mayor has not responded to us.
and who takes the compost that you generate, or what happens to it?
So we give the huge majority of our compost back to Queens Parks Horticulture. They are
I'm
all
worried about
huge
that.
advocates of our site. Like the parkies on the ground love us. And the Community Parks Initiative, if you read the website, it says that they work to identify a local community-based organization to partner with, to encourage residents to engage with and steward the park, which we've been doing for over a decade. And it really doesn't make sense. But we give the lion's share of our finished compost back to parks to be applied on parks. And then we give it to community gardens, schools that have gardens, people doing street tree care events, other stewardship. We've worked with over 200 community groups in the past year to give compost back, and individuals who are dropping off at their food scrap drop off. The list kind of just goes on and on and on.
So in terms of this petition that you mentioned earlier, how would you like you're asking CB2 to help you gather signatures for the petition? What?
I mean, I'm here as part of the community to be in dialogue, to see what the best avenue that you think, if you want to support us staying, might be. If it's to send out the petition in your newsletter, that would be great. If it's to ask the parks to come in and answer some questions about this and maybe invite us to the table too, that would be amazing. We're really looking for a way to engage with, like, to have a dialogue, because we've just been getting the cold shoulder.
What do you want to have a dialogue in front of the community board? Or I mean, I'm trying to
I think
visualize
that would
this
be,
event.
I mean, like, I think that would be best because, we've had a brief email and it's not a dialogue. It's just them bullying and saying, your lease is over. It's time for you to go. We're like saying that composting is not a use that parks can have on their sites, which has been refuted again by two major legal groups.
Can I ask you a question? Because some years ago, as an architect, I was involved in a large site right across from Soundview Park. And they had a huge composting facility that was their tenant, like long-term tenant.
Yeah, and then there was some smells, and the neighbors complained, and the site was shut down. And then a year and a half later, they discovered that the smells were because of a ruptured sewage pipe underneath. But that case study is the one that they're using to claim that composting is an inappropriate use of parks land. They're using that case study.
Oh,
They're saying it's odorous?
Yeah, they are. We live next to the largest housing project in North America and get zero complaints. And they're using a refuted legal case from, what was that, the early 2000s or something?
yeah, early on.
To make a legal
There's
claim.
no odor.
There's no odor,
There's
and
no
they're
odor. The
using,
odor is from the freaking Plan, the
The-
gas
oh,
plans.
yeah.
Yeah.
But they're using this legal claim, and they're using a legal claim from a date that precedes them giving us the license.
That's incredible. That's really,
So it's all kind of weird, and it seems a little shadowy, and we can't get any answers. And I think that like having an open discussion in front of people would be a good thing, because I smell something foul, and it's not comfortable.
Sounds like a public hearing. If we were gonna invite parts of you.
You probably need to come to the committee rather than inviting to the full board.
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to think of it as a public event, if what you really want is public coverage, I don't know.
Maybe two steps, though, coming to this committee first and then a public hearing.
Yeah, they probably would be more likely to come to the committee.
So if you came, so if they came to land
For a
use in
conversation.
April, then if that was gonna be a follow-up at the meeting, that would be May first, it's getting for May, the May board meeting, it's getting pretty close to June.
It'd
It's
be
getting
us or
close.
it'd be parks.
Right, that's another question, I mean, we do have an environment and parks committee, what's the name?
Could be like a joint case. Then you'd get everybody.
We'd have to have it someplace other than here. On the street.
No. You know, at Tier Cornerstones, in fact, research we have the space. Oh, right.
Chief Cornerstone's what?
In the Tier Cornerstone building. on the
Oh, right.
waterfront, we have the Sunnyside Community.
And
Space.
they have a meeting.
They have a meeting space, we could have it there.
Okay.
And
We're
accommodate
willing
one,
to loan it to us.
but you wouldn't have this hybrid thing, because they don't have the technology. So I don't know what to say about that. They just don't have that equipment. Yeah. If somebody wants to pay for that equipment.
It would be nice to have a policy because there's a lot of people that, like I know, there's a lot of people, many of us know I didn't care about this, but I don't know if some of them.
So it'll be a public hearing then? Is that what-
No, not a hearing,
Just
it's
a-
a committee meeting, but a joint committee meeting.
Yeah,
Is that where the Newtown Creek Alliance has its space also? Because they had a meeting last night with all the.
It wasn't there, it's not the same.
Or maybe they would let us meet there.
I don't know that, but
Yeah, no, it's a lovely space. They've got boats in it, but it also has. Right.
It has a projector. I don't know if it has like the whole Zoom
The Wi-Fi.
live thing.
Oh,
I
Wi-Fi
don't
is
know,
on
but
some.
it sounds like there's multiple options.
So that would be April 17th if we did it on our regular meeting day.
I mean, we have to, make sure the space is available, right?
Yeah, we'd have to confirm a space and talk to him. Environment committee, but, I mean, if you think that would be helpful. like,
I don't think it would hurt anything. And I think this is a conversation that a lot of people have been kind of itching to have for a little while. Again, I work for Big Reuse, but I've been a community composter for a long time, and I would probably be here even if I didn't work for Big Reuse, because this is important. This is an award-winning site. People come from all over the world to look at the site and take ideas and technology back to their cities where they live. This is a crowning jewel of sustainability in the United States, not only New York City or Queens specific, but we should do whatever we can not to lose this site.
Do you have letters of correspondence from the elected officials or any of that we can share with our board office so we can have it for the file and make sure
Yes,
everybody's aware?
I would, I do.
Isaac is here from, I believe, hi Isaac, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
That's in number one's
So you're-
office. I don't know if he wants to weigh in or not, or.
Well, I was actually just asking our chief of staff for any updates I could share. So I don't have too much to say right now. what's the deal, and, yeah.
And we have a letter from Julie Wan. We're in like the final, we'll have it like finalized tomorrow morning.
I saw it published already.
Well-
Moving around for it.
Yeah, there's a letter, it's like a letter of support from Julie Wan, but, so we already have that, and we have a letter of support from Donovan Richards' office and a few others. But Julie Wan is writing a new letter that she's gonna circulate around to all city council members to get co-signers on it in like support of this, asking parks to back down and
Yeah.
like have some reason here. I just want to say thank you for this productive dialogue. I said I only wanted 5 minutes, and this has been way longer than 5 minutes. I really, really appreciate your attention to this matter.
Thank you for coming back to us. Okay, so,
Somebody mentioned Councilmember Krishnam's, cause isn't he in charge of the
He's
council?
chair of Parks Committee. Mhm.
Committee, so he's definitely, I would imagine, on board with this and then some.
Yes, he is. He's also kind of like what Julie say, I'm following Julie's lead, but he's following Julie's lead, but he is on board with
That's a
it.
tradition in the council, isn't it?
It really is, but he is the chair of the Parks Committee, and he is fully on board with like having composting be here. And he understands that this is not gonna limit or minimize or take away any public space from Baby Queensbridge Park. This is only going to make parks think more critically about the productive use of their parking situation. And
Did they offer you any other space?
no, they are very clear that they will not be offering any composting project, any space on parks land now or anytime in the future.
so do you have you identified any other options?
We did, we identified a location in Brooklyn, and Department of Sanitation was moving forward with getting the permits to build that site, but the budget has been completely cut. We have zero money for that now. We do not have any city-funded staff on the compost project. We only have staff to operate at 20% at Queensbridge, and that staff is funded by private donations. And the donations are gonna also end. We're gonna run out of that money in June as well. So we're confident we can raise more money. We've got promises from multiple council members and the borough president, but we cannot accept, process, and distribute compost if we do not have land. This is a land-based movement, and we support other land-based stewards throughout the city. And we also educate people about the importance of composting, which gets people to participate in the brown bin program, which we are not against. We're fully in support of the brown bin program, but we're not in favor of the brown bin program being weaponized to get rid of us. We had a press conference, and on the steps of City Hall the other day, our executive director said, I think a very appropriate analogy. If you only have the farmer's market to buy wholesome produce at, and a Key Food opens in your neighborhood, that is not a good reason to close the farmer's market. We're offering like the highest quality composting at a high touch personal level that benefits multiple communities and community members. And we believe that we should be able to keep on doing that. Our budget is a rounding error in the Department of Sanitation's budget. We're asking for DSNY money to do that. And we're not competing with parks or anybody else's libraries, education, budget monies. But we also, in addition to the budget to operate, we need land. And we've already lost 5 of the community composting sites in New York City. We are one of 2 left. There's this one, and there's the one on Governor's Island. And that one, they have an open RFP to identify a composter on the site on Governor's Island. And it's kind of weird what's happening on Governor's Island right now too. And they're not sure that they're gonna keep that site either. And if these community scale composting sites end, the give backs to schools, to all the street tree stewards, just so many different, we've worked with over 200 groups. Lower East Side Ecology Center, Earth Matter, the Botanic Gardens work with an equal amount of groups. And I think it's really important to support these groups, which we, as the New York City Compost Project supports. There's 8 nonprofits that manage the Compost Project, but we touch thousands of community organizations and just community groups and people and schools and gardens and libraries and everything across the city. So
I wonder if we need to, work with the one LIC people and let them know that this is a priority for the area. Or you, that's what you already do.
that is a good idea. And we have gone and talked, and some of the folks in charge of that planning process are strong compost advocates. And it reminds me, yes. And, we've got correspondence from the Long Island City Partnership that, they've offered, I don't know what we can do about it, they're like, they want to help us identify another place to set up. And that's a very gracious offer, but I think if there's another spot to set up, then I think we should shift the park's parking and storage to that spot, because it took $500,000 New York City taxpayer dollars to build this site. And the parking lot is considerably less expensive to build. So instead of displacing and wasting that $500,000, we don't have another $500,000 to build another site somewhere else. If one LIC or the LIC bid or partnership could identify another location, I would encourage parks, and I have been encouraging the whole time, parks to find a different place to park their vehicles. Because I acknowledge this is really important. Parks needs storage area. They just need to manage the ones that they have a little bit better, or consider looking for another place instead of displacing this really beloved and already.
You've gone to World Community Board 1 as well,
Yes,
and their response?
they're in favor. The only people not in favor seem to be the mayor, the parks commissioner, and the local Queens Parks Commissioner. Talk to any parky, any person, working in the parks, and they love our compost, they support our compost site. This seems to be something coming from high up.
So as our next step, do we need to ask them for an update or their reasoning before we invite them to a hearing? Get a dialogue started on this?
And as you heard before, Isaac was trying to get an update. We'll partner and see if we can, give us an update.
Bill, do you have a 501c3? Are you a not-for-profit?
Big reusers.
Big reusers,
Oh, yeah.
so
Mhm.
they have an agreement with the community-based or, sometimes there are organizations that have sub-leases with other people, and so they have, their agreement is with Big Use,
Big Reuse
Organization.
has the
Big
license
Reuse,
agreement with Parks Department,
right?
and we also used to have the contracts for Department of Sanitation to run the New York City Compost Project.
We need to have Department of Sanitation as well.
I think for this, it's just parks. I mean, sanitation is another can of worms.
I have a question. I'm just trying to put some connections between the mayor and his campaign against rats, because when some years ago, actually, some people on our board were opposed to doing compost-like efforts or things, in that little park on 50th Street and also in the Barnett, because of the potential for rats. And there was this belief that composting attracts rats and so on. I'm sure there's evidence to refute that, but if that were the case, maybe that's what's, bugging the mayor.
They have not once
Have you
ever
seen any
mentioned rats.
What?
I've
They've never used rats as a
Never seen
justification.
They
as far as
can't
I'm
use
aware.
rats as a justification. If you're composting sloppily, sure, you're gonna attract rats. But, take a look at the 45th Street site and how they've had rats running around that site for over a decade, and people didn't see them because of the high grass. And then when we managed the grass, we could see the rats. And that was because they had burrows underneath the foundation of the building behind the lots, and they blamed it on the compost. And because people were there stewarding the land, giving the rats a hard time, the rats disappeared. They went elsewhere. There was a construction site. There's so many reasons for rats to be on that block, but because the people are careful to manage the rat issue, as composters are active participants in their environment, stewards.
Excuse me, there are rat traps all over around that park. I live down the block from there, so just.
Where at? At
Right
45th
in
Street?
front, yeah,
Yeah.
right in front of
So,
the.
so
Chamber
rat
of
traps
Friends or a
are,
rat trap.
like, go talk to the Department of Health and, what is it, mental hygiene, and they will tell you that the rat traps are just a window dressing to help people think that there's something happening.
Okay.
Those rat traps were put there by the property owner and the supers of the building next door who also offer that. So the rat traps do very little except for poison the rats, which poisons our hawks and birds. of
Yeah,
prey.
I don't know, and I don't wanna argue about it, but I have seen that.
I do have to say the biggest cause of rats, though, in the area you're talking about is when they knocked down the buildings on Queens Plaza. That was when we saw the rats. It was like,
Yeah.
because those buildings were built in like 1912 or whatever, and all of a sudden it was like hundreds of rats.
Another anecdotal, there's a fellow named Domingo Morales who started a nonprofit called Compost Power. He works with Green City Forest in NYCHA properties to make compost. And his compost is actually rat mitigation. NYCHA is actually calling on his team to mitigate rats. He's a composter, but they've noticed that there used to be rats in the derelict places that he's taken over, and now that he's bringing food scraps and composting, the rats have disappeared. We're very active in maintaining the rats. There should be a huge rat problem at Queensbridge if this was the issue, but there's not. There should be a huge rat problem at all of our composting sites, but there's not. There may be rats, just like any other place, but there's not like any more reason to be concerned than any other place.
I mean, there's also the cats too, like the Ravenwood cat, the wild, the feral cats that I think keep some of the cats away.
Maybe, but Domingo operates in 14 different NYCHA properties.
Seriously,
I
you can laugh at it all you want, but
When this issue,
No, I get it.
when this issue came up several years ago in relation to our own area, I did a whole with the open data system. I looked at rodent sightings, and there was absolutely no evidence that there was an increase in rodent sightings anywhere near the composting sites or the park
Mhm.
that Benji Lucas wanted to put his,
Yeah.
you know.
There was a great TED Talk, TEDx Broadway, several years ago by someone from the city Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, which is charged with handling the rats in the city. And they give a great presentation of a study that shows that community composting is the most effective way of reducing rats in any given area. That comes directly from the city, directly from the agency responsible for rat mitigation.
Well, thank you very much for coming, and we will, I guess, consider this joint meeting and, get back to you.
Thank you so much. I know that we talked about this way longer than I was anticipating, so thank you.
But thanks for the update, and if you need an updated, it sounds like you have a additional letter, or updated letter.
I'm gonna send them to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely send them to you.
Okay.
I'm gonna take my back to seat there.
So next on our agenda is Corey Hannigan, who's. Okay, sorry. And you're gonna have to update us on the program and tell us a little bit about the program. And I'm glad that, they revived it but I'm wondering how I had not heard of it before. And so I'm interested in how applicable it is for a lot of other people in our board.
Sure. Yeah, so, what we're talking about is, Housing Preservation Department's, Home First, Low Income Down Payment Assistance Program. It's specifically offering down payment assistance for, households in New York City that are making less than 80% of their median income. And it's for first-time home purchase. Basically, the program can contribute, up to 100,000 or 20% of the purchase price, whichever is lower. I had been pursuing this program to use it. It's a very complex process to get to the point where you can actually apply. You have to enter a purchase contract with a seller, I was purchasing a co-op. You'd find a co-op board that is willing to allow you to even use a grant, which scares a lot of them away. And the co-op board wouldn't let us apply to the co-op board until we had the grant approval. So we had to figure out something in the contract to allow that delay to work. Anyway, a lot of negotiations, get a loan commitment. And finally, you know, you can apply it, but by that point, the city had unceremoniously frozen the program in, I think, December, early December, like December 7th. With no real warning, just suddenly the website was updated, and my counselor, you basically, to apply for this, you work through a housing nonprofit. I work through Chaya CDC, they're in Jackson Heights, but there's another one in Woodside. There's a few distributors around the city.
Is it Woodside on the roof?
No, let me see. There's a few providers. In Queens, it's NHS of Woodside, NHS of Queens CDC runs Woodside Ave 6020. And basically, I forgot to mention, you have to attend an education seminar to get like a certificate that, you know, you've learned about the program and you understand the circumstances of a first time home purchase and all that, and they vet you and you have a meeting. And so you basically never really communicate directly to HPD. You communicate through a counselor at this nonprofit who communicates with HPD, and then eventually the nonprofit who actually processes your application under HPD. So anyway, long story short, right when I had gotten into contract and gotten my loan commitment, I learned that this program had been frozen. And basically anything that they had already received, they were going to continue to process, but they weren't taking any new applications until spring. And when I tried to find out, you know, what does spring mean? Because spring could mean June, just so I can negotiate with the seller and tell them, like, we're expecting this delay. How do we make that whole with you? But basically got no answer. And really only got a response once I reached out to Julie Wan's office, who responded right away and contacted HPD, and then suddenly they're prioritizing my application. And so really great. I was really happy with the response I got from her office. But still, they weren't immediately processing my application. What they said was they'll prioritize it when they reopen the program. I think I just got lucky in the sense that they restarted the program early this month, and my application was at the top of the list because of that. And we literally got the approval from HPD like 3 days before the deadline, so I'm still in it. Still putting my application to the co-op board together. But I think, you know, it is good for more people to find out about this program and just to understand a little bit of like maybe some of the issues with it. Like, it's kind of a catch-22 in the sense that you need to be in contract to apply, but a lot of times it's difficult to get into contract if you don't have the down payment. And a lot of co-op boards, which are the more affordable version, require you to have 20% down, 30% down. They require you to have a very strict debt to income ratio. A lot of the co-op boards require like a 20% debt to income ratio, which means like you have to make 4 times your housing cost to even apply.
Wow.
So that's a whole headache on its own. But then applying for this program, they tell you it can take 90 days to process. So I had to negotiate with my seller a per diem to cover their housing costs for the entire period. So essentially every day is costing me like roughly $52 in the contract. But all that said, it is I think a really important program that made it possible for me to access housing. I work at a nonprofit, you know, I make a good wage, but not a lot of money. I certainly wouldn't have been able to purchase a home right now if I hadn't had access to that program. And I mean, I'm kind of hoping to sort of just like, you know, just get a foothold so I can stay in the neighborhood because, you know, I describe myself as being priced in to Woodside, and I'm hoping to not get priced out of Woodside because I really like it here. But yeah, so I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions or walk through the process or talk about my experience with it. Initially, I was kind of hoping that, you know, the land use committee could write a stern letter to HPD, but, you know, my problem's been resolved. But I do want to be available and, like, you know, help inform anyone. Questions, yeah.
Did Julie Wan's office find out why they had paused the program? Is this something they do every year?
It's unprecedented. It's never happened before, which partially was why there was so much confusion from my attorney and my counsel and everything. What I found out was actually, ironically, they're expanding the program. There's so much demand that they were hiring, you know, new contractors to help process, and they had this backlog, like, which is why it took 90 days to process everything. This is speculation, but I assume they figured the winter is when they have the fewest home purchases, and so it's the lowest impact, which is understandable. I understand processes need to be reworked. I think the real issue was that there was no heads up, right? I was pursuing this process expecting that when I was ready, the program would be available, and it was after I was in contract that I found out it wasn't available. That was what really risked, all this stuff. So, and just communication on, really what's happening. Where are they in the process? When are they expecting to reopen,
But as a program, and I don't know how much publicity there is, it seems to me very applicable or very important for large parts of CB2 where, homeownership has traditionally been more middle class and working class, and those people and people that grew up here are literally getting priced out and leaving the neighborhood every day. I mean, and looking elsewhere, and so it hurts the neighborhood, and
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know how. I mean, maybe we could put just a little square, if we knew, just had the address of where you get more information.
Can
put
we
that in
ask
our
HPD
newsletter.
for a flyer? I'm sure they have. Here we go.
Or write
Yeah.
this program.
It could also
Writing a little story about this program would be good.
It could also be interesting to reach out to the CDC in Woodside or any of the CDCs that are in CB2.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and talk to them about, what's your experience? Is there any support they could use? I know that, my counselor, God love her, like is so overwhelmed with these applications, right? Like sometimes I wouldn't hear back from her for days because she's just, I know what it's like working in a nonprofit, but like, you're chronically understaffed and underfunded and you're just trying to process all this stuff. So I could also imagine that support for the counselors could help expedite things too.
Well, probably more counselors.
Yeah,
When you say
absolutely.
support for the counselor. Yeah.
And it's good to know that these programs exist not just for home buyers, but for co-ops or condos.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
the important takeaway, I think, from your presentation, is that this is an option that makes things available to people.
Yeah,
And go for a mortgage, because I've done this recently, they tell you all the programs like in New York State and.
right.
But the problem with generally there's a lot of money to be made in that industry, so there's a lot of people who say, oh, well, I'll help you apply and you can pay me a fee. So if you're sort of navigating on your own or with your lawyer, it's tricky, and
Yeah.
then, we know the problems.
I think I initially heard about it through a friend. They said, I think there's assistance programs, and I just started searching around and this came up. I mean, they advertise like up to $100,000 for your down payment assistant, right? So of course you're gonna click on that. Yeah, and I do think though that people need to know what they're getting into. Like I honestly don't know if I would go through it a second time. Or just wait until I have the money saved up and hope and pray that I don't get displaced in the meantime. Because the stress of like the seller asking what's going on and not being able to tell them for 3 months, and looking at your email every day, just hoping you see something. It really took a toll on my mental health. And just I think people need to understand the process of like, you wait a month to go through this seminar, you get your certificate, you schedule a meeting with your counselor, they talk through all your financials, then you shop around, find a unit. If it's in a co-op, you have to like get an attorney, reach out to the co-op board and be like, hey, we're planning to use this grant. Technically it's a loan, but it's not really a loan, and see if they aren't scared off, and then work with a seller who's willing to wait an extra 3 months, and then find a lender who knows about this program and is willing to has worked with it before, and then get the loan commitment. I of course made it even more complicated. I'm using like a reduced rate mortgage program from the state, so that it'd be even more complicated. And then you apply and you wait like 3 months and then hope that you get approved, and then you can apply to the co-op board.
Also, I'm just thinking like, my dad's a veteran of the house my parents ever owned was through the veterans program. And that's like really, it should be, their system shouldn't make it hard for people. It should make it.
And I should add, I'm not even talking about the documents you have to submit. because, I mean, if you've ever applied for a co-op board, it's not even close to what you have to submit to HPD. Like, they needed like, notarized documents saying like, here's all the known aliases I have, and here's like the explaining every little transaction that I had, where this money came from, and I was even concerned because there's this strict income limit, like, so it's for a single individual, it's up to 79,000, which is very actually fair, I think. But I was worried if I took money out of my retirement for a down payment, is that going to be income? And it was unclear. And it's like, it's very, very scary,
So why
Um,
not have the NHS of Queens come to our board meetings and they could do a presentation? I mean, they have on the ones like Monday, March 18th, first time home buyer orientation, come and learn ABC. So, I mean, they can just do a presentation of full board, like that would be nice.
Putting it in the newsletter also, I mean, we want, I mean, that's the main thing, it's not for us, so.
I not to interrupt, but I also think it could be good to inform co-op boards about how this program works, that, because legally, it's a loan. It's a junior lien, an extra lien on the apartment, where basically the way it works is you get this grant, there's no interest, and after 5 years, depending on the size of the grant, every year a percent of it is forgiven as long as it's your primary residence. So essentially, I can't move or rent this out for 15 years, or else I have to pay some of the loan back. But if you stay there, you never have to pay it back, and there's no interest on it. Even if you do have to pay it back, there's no interest on it. So I think maybe if there was a way to share with co-op, bigger co-op buildings in the area, like, hey, like, this is really good. You're gonna get long-term residents. They have to stay in the building. It's called a loan, but it's not. It's really just cash. Like, helping them understand so they're not just like, no, because it's very easy to just say no,
We are a city agency, so we can only promote the city agency portion and let people know that this program exists.
Okay, gotcha.
Separate from what we're doing here, you might want to, once it's all finished and done for you, like write a op-ed for the local paper or something, and talk about how terrible your experience is.
Don't use the program.
I have a person for you. You can get the publishment.
Alright.
I'm also curious.
No, go ahead.
Isn't there a similar program through the state, the HCR, whatever the state housing one is? Don't they have a similar program? I'm just curious if you investigated both of those options or how they kind of compared.
Yeah, so Sony May, which is like the state of New York, something. They offer an Achieving the Dream program, and that is either a reduced rate mortgage or a reduced rate mortgage with down payment assistance. But it's much more paltry compared to what the HPD program offers. I didn't use the down payment assistance, but I did use their reduced rate mortgage. So that was very helpful when the federal government was when the Fed was increasing rates every day. It was nice to have access to a reduced rate.
Yeah, I think it's important to emphasize, I mean, totally in line with what Debbie is saying, that this is a city agency sponsored program. It is not, and that it may exist, private for profits, don't confuse them.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Well, now that you have help, you should come in and join community board.
Oh, I've already interviewed.
Your application there.
No, I've already interviewed. I'm waiting to hear from them.
I mean,
I'm learning, working with the city involves waiting a lot.
that's not the upper easy.
Oh, yeah.
There's always been.
But yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Requirement is that you have
No, it's the whole period, actually. My counselor, Alicia, told me that they had a horror story where someone was literally about to be approved and she got a raise at work.
All right.
Good job. And here's the,
Moving on to city planning.
Yes, we'll move on to city planning or, oh, Kenny. Is that?
It's just.
Okay, all right, so let's move to city planning. Hi.
Well, as far as the ULURP updates, it's pretty quiet right now. You all just saw the, rezoning at 5875, what was that, East Midtown Expressway. And then as far as the study, we're still working with, Julie to, narrow down the date for the town hall meeting. What I can say is at the town hall, we'll kind of just like close out the second round of focus area meetings. And, it'll be more like a workshop to work together to draft, strategies, recommendations from what we heard from you guys.
Wait, I'm sorry, this is on the one LIC.
Correct.
And is there a date?
Not yet. We're still working on that.
Okay.
Can I ask you about the gaming?
Yes.
And I saw the
Yeah,
city,
thank you.
yes, and there's a gaming application. Where's that? Is it supposed to come here? Are you doing a presentation? What?
It just got approved by city planning today.
I can get back to you on that. If you would want someone to come and talk to you about it.
Well, do we have to vote on it? What's the plan?
I will get the information. I don't want to tell you, something inaccurate, and I can get back to you.
And I'm asking because I don't want us to be late or to come here and then we
No.
need to.
No, I hope you all see how much, I'm trying to reach out to you all
No,
with.
we
Yes.
we
updates and
appreciate
stuff.
your updates. So
Yeah.
I would like to just, because we also had a request, or I had a request from someone who wants to come when I guess when there's a public hearing on the city of Yes. So can you, for the housing opportunity, so what is the calendar for the?
So the
city of-
referral should, happen in April, so that's gonna take a while still, and I don't have the exact dates, for
But
on that.
is it anticipated that they want the board approvals to be before the end of the calendar year?
Yes, definitely.
Wait,
Yeah, I shared that, at our full board, it'll be referred out in spring, and then, voting should happen.
So
by-
if it's
Wait, excuse me, if it's referred out in April, you know, if it's after April 1st, we, May and June, we don't meet over the summer.
That's
So
what
we
I'm
have
trying.
60
yeah.
days from
Mhm.
April 1st, we can, I don't know what our May meeting is. But then we won't meet again until September.
No, we're aware. I don't know
Well,
if you recall what happened with carbon neutrality. We definitely had that in mind, everyone's calendar and tried to accommodate for that. So no need to worry about, we were in summer.
Well, last summer there was something.
Mhm.
And I just want to mention for the committee, and I guess thank everybody here for their hard work on this. We got a call from Commissioner Dan Garodnick thanking Community Board 2 for their vote and submitting your information. So I
Okay,
wanted to let everybody know for the record.
and so we didn't get a black mark because we were a little late.
No, good, we got to thank you.
Being a little late, going back to the gaming, I'm seeing on the ZAP website that almost every other community board has voted on it already.
What?
So it might have fallen through the cracks for us. Because if it's at city planning, that means that all the. other
That's what I
cities have
thought, because
voted on it.
the
Yeah.
article or the
Why
person
bringing
who
it up?
told me.
Yeah, they've been
said
voting
it's
on it all
council.
throughout February.
The next
Why
step
I'm
was to
bringing
go
it
to
up.
council.
Yeah, I think we just missed it.
Nobody
But
came through here.
We were
We
never
didn't
told.
Still,
Yeah.
no.
I mean, and it is relevant for us because it potentially is next to us, even if it's not our district.
Well, if it's an amendment to the zoning ordinance, it's relevant to everybody,
Right,
right?
I
I mean,
think
that
so.
has to go to
Yeah,
every.
Yeah, it's going before every board, everyone's voting for it, or against it. So we're already late at this point, but we still should have a hearing.
Is that in
That's why I'm-
Queens or in other parts of the
All
world?
boroughs are voting on it. Queens is
City,
voting on it.
it's a citywide.
Yeah.
That's why I mentioned it.
Could somebody clarify what it is?
Gaming
Gaming
text
facility
amendment.
text amendment, yeah.
And
it's-
honestly, the article that I looked up after this woman on the bus told me about it, it literally just said the gaming text amendment. It didn't really give much more
No.
information. in the article.
Isaac, are you aware of this? Deval?
I am, I'll just admit, I am not aware of this.
Well, I mean, neither are we, so we can all admit it.
Yeah.
I saw it the same way you did, and that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, for sure.
That's very bizarre, though.
Does it relate to the casino bids and stuff and whether we would welcome them or not?
gonna follow up with you guys, I don't want to give you all any incorrect information.
Would it be that the community boards that have voted are places where the proposals or future sites that they've identified as possible sites?
I don't think so. I think it should, yeah, it's citywide text amendment, so it should be everybody similar to all the city of yes stuff.
Yeah.
I think in general, there's an opportunity, if there's something specific to our community board, it's easier for us to know about it. We can find it, you know, on the site pretty easily, but these citywide amendments, I think we have an opportunity to get better sort of notifications about.
I mean, I don't think in the past that's been a problem.
It's not been a problem. It has never, ever, ever been a problem. I mean, we voted on everything that was referred out, city planning has told us about, and we have worked with them on timing for responses, and there's never been like, bizarre.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so we were getting updates. Ken?
I just had one more question about one LIC. Which is, I'm still very confused as to what the actual schedule, not in terms of upcoming workshops, but the overall deliverable, let's call it. Because I'm remembering the last meeting I attended, which was not the actual last meeting, but probably two before that. Julie said something to the effect that this is going to be a year-long process. And I'm simply trying to understand, is that a year till where we actually begin the ULIP process? Or is that a year to, a year to the actual end result? I'm trying to understand what we're looking at.
A year of engagement. ULIP is gonna take much longer than that. We're looking to like 2025.
So spring 2025, engagement into spring 2025.
No. Engagement is 1 year. So from when we started, think of it 1 year of engagement.
So we started what?
We started in the late fall, right?
What's it? November. November, so, we started November 2023, right, so engagement then is November 2024, we're saying. And then, what's the, anticipated process after that? Just trying to get a sense of the timing.
Yeah, I had this pulled up because I was gonna get back to you and then.
I mean, isn't
Yeah,
the
there's
sort of
a game
longest,
test.
there has to be the development of a whole EIS
Mhm.
or that
We're gonna,
it should.
we're,
certify the ULIP.
so we are the stages after, this town hall, next will be, gathering everything and then proposing or presenting the draft scope and the draft, recommendations. And then this is just like off the top of my head because there's so many pieces that are moving and changing.
But the draft,
And then-
the draft will presumably take some time after the engagement, correct?
Well, the engagement is ongoing. You're a part of that. So we're gonna present to you the draft. You're still gonna be a part of engagement. We're gonna have we have 4 rounds of focus area meetings. Did you recall that I mentioned?
So you're saying the draft EIS is basically after November?
No, this is all within 1 year is the engagement process.
So it's a draft of the
Throughout-
findings from the
No, the
engagement
draft,
process?
the
It's not a
EIS
draft EIS.
No, the
It's a
EIS can't
draft
be the.
of, right, it's a draft of the summary of engagement.
and our draft for the framework overall as well.
Ah,
So
okay.
all this is going hand in hand. And at each step, we're going to be presenting it to you.
But
it's
nobody
draft.
has started the EIS now because there's not a proposal. I mean, they don't have, right?
We're not at that stage yet.
Right.
This is gonna be a very lengthy process, and I'm gonna look it up, because I had it pulled up for you, so I could show you visually.
I guess what I'm suggesting is as much of the structure of how this is gonna work that could be provided to the public. I mean, because I'm somewhat savvy about how this works and I'm confused, so.
I think at the town hall, definitely, we're gonna put the pieces together, and that conversation, will be had, and you'll be at the table to really engage and see, what we're talking about. I know at the beginning, we shared the timeline, and it might have been like a while since then, and, I think we had a lot of meetings in the beginning back to back. Now we kind of have a bit of more time in between. So definitely at the town hall, like I said, it's gonna round out everything. that we've done thus far, so we're definitely gonna touch on the timeline as well. So I'm gonna get you the information, and then at the town hall, I'm gonna make sure that you also have more clarity.
Thank you. And I think
Yeah.
to, just add that the LIC plan.nyc has like all of the presentations that DCP did publicly. And I think there are timelines in that, but
It's
maybe
hard
we
to
just,
find though. It's very like very, deep in the website, so they could.
yeah, maybe some feedback for DCP. I think also like, I also find it confusing at first, like, maybe public needs more clarity on like the differences between the, like, what we heard that WXY, I believe, is doing, after the first round or this, like, first year of public engagement has been completed. And then like what the full like neighborhood study, what that document means, that'll be out, I think, in 2025, right? I think that's kind of confusion here.
I have to
maybe
say, I
expressing.
have neighbors,
I said, why don't you go to the?
I have neighbors that literally think
Thank
that they're gonna go to this
Here.
next meeting and there's gonna be like a plan. Or they think like the sewers are gonna be fixed like on Tuesday. Like I mean, they're not
Well,
as
that's
engaged
what
as I
I'm
am, but
saying.
I do have neighbors who
And
literally.
and I try to explain it to people, and then I find that I'm stumbling, trying to explain it.
Right,
That's maybe my feeling and not fully digesting it, but.
because I'll say, no, it's gonna be longer, but then I don't really have a grasp of what
that-
it's going to be,
what that
yeah.
actually means. And I think people have some sense of that. I mean, if it's purely floating and based on input and how people feel, that's one thing, but it's not, right? There's this somewhat of a schedule anticipated.
Yeah, and I think like DCP presented, if I'm not wrong, like over the summer, like a draft zoning framework that they need to get started on the EIS, right?
Yeah, so you all right now have engaged more on the public side with your recommendations. We're hearing from you. On our end, we're taking that, and simultaneously there's being work done for the framework, for the like suggested rezonings or suggested like ideas being incorporated from what we're hearing from you that you're not seeing because that's being worked on. It's live, and there's nothing to present at this stage on that regards. So the next step that you all will hear about right now will be the draft, or not the draft, but the workshop to draft together what we can put towards the framework.
So who, like, it's not you working on that. Is there a team working on that?
Oh, it's many divisions,
Right.
many teams, it's a lot of
It's
people.
someone, who's taking the lead on them?
The project lead is Hei Kyung.
Uh-huh.
She's also the team leader of the Western Queens team in our office. And she's been at all the meetings. She has been participating with you all at these, cases directly. You probably have seen her before.
Maybe, but I mean, could you maybe come one day? Invite her. Could you maybe invite her to come to one of our?
Definitely, I think this was definitely heard when you all shared it to Tito, and I do believe that she transmitted that to her. As you all know, I will do my best to get that to her, but as you all know, Queens right now is going through many changes, and we will continue to try to work with
You
her
could just
schedule
Give
to.
Debbie the contact and Debbie.
Oh, yeah, I think
can-
she's on your communication.
communication.
Right.
Yeah.
I can ask her even if she can come on Zoom.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'll
If she
definitely
can't come
get
in
that.
person, she can then come on Zoom.
Is there a new director yet? Or-
No, not yet, not yet. We're working on that.
Yeah.
So,
It's a
we're
work
back and
in-
forth overall, so. Get in there.
All right. Okay. That's your colleague, right?
Yes.
So we do have one piece of new business
Just
tonight.
enjoying the inside.
One piece of new business. Kenny, do you want to just introduce it?
Yeah, sure. Lisa? Oh, where'd you go?
Right here.
Yeah, come on in.
Okay.
So Lisa Gordon is the chair of the Lion City Community Coalition. And the coalition is, some of you may have attended the workshop that they did on resiliency There's that in February, I guess.
Mhm.
And they're planning another workshop, a follow-up, in, late April in Cultural Lab. And I think they're interested in whether somebody representing, either this committee or the community board can speak at that along with the various elected representatives. So Lisa, I don't know if you want to take it over.
Hi, it's 50th Street.
Oh,
Sorry.
So Queens.
Yeah. No, I'm okay. I've been sitting.
it's listed wrong on the
I'll
website.
let you.
Oh,
I made the same mistake. I think sometimes Google just like
Yeah.
changes it to
Google,
apps.
it just
and
takes you
It sent me like way down.
There,
As
yeah,
does Uber and Lyft.
it wouldn't go into, anyway, doesn't matter.
Sorry.
Sorry,
I'm late.
but your timing is perfect.
Oh, good. So, Long Island City Coalition and Hunters Point Community Coalition, which are kind of sister organizations, held a community engagement workshop in January 20th, to kind of bring the community together to create a vision plan for resiliency for Hunters Point North, from basically Queens West up to Queensbridge. And it was really successful. We had over 100 people from the community come and were very enthusiastic, had a lot to say. Our consulting group that we're working with, Nautilus International, whom you know because you've worked with Bonnie and Nautilus. They're leading our project and they presented at the workshop, kind of talking about what resiliency is, the importance of resiliency, why the Hunters Point floodplain is so particularly vulnerable because of the hydrodynamics around the East River and coming from Long Island Sound and in two directions, because it's not really a river, it's a tidal strait, whatever. And so after presentation, and some of you were there, so I shouldn't belabor it, but we broke into discussion groups to talk about the environment, about economic opportunities that the community is interested in, and community services. And then got together as a full group to go through the key things that each group wanted, and we documented all of it on whiteboards that we pasted up, so everyone saw everything that was said and it didn't get lost. In any case, the overwhelming interest is for many of the things that this community board has advocated for years, and consistent with what's been said, which is that the community needs much more open space, serious attention to resiliency, development that that benefits community people equitably, that spurs economic growth for, you know, a wide range of groups, that connects Hunters Point South critically with Hunters Point North and helps bridge the economic divide between North and South. And even structurally, the North is set on a different grid from the South and really does not connect as it should. That increases access to the waterfront, and that, you know, restores habitat, brings more services, really helps keep the IBZ going, and improves it, and also brings affordable spaces for artists who we've lost because of gentrification, small business, spurs small business growth, all of that. In any case, we are now preparing for a follow-up workshop, taking all of that information
and creating a draft vision plan based on all of that input to present to the community again and say, did we hear this correctly? Is this what you want? Should we take a little less of this or add something else? Or, what is it? Did we capture it correctly? And again, the key things that are, we heard that there's interest in are really documented, particularly in the report that CB2 approved that commented on your LIC. So it's very, similar ideas to what's in your own report there. And we would love it if someone from CB2 could come and just even say a couple of words of support at this next workshop, which is April 27th. Say it correctly. Last time I gave a date, I gave it 2 months earlier. So April 27th is a Saturday. We'd be happy to walk through the presentation with you ahead of time so you can see what it is and what's in it, and see if you have any questions about it or if you have any concerns about what we're presenting. And that's pretty much.
So I think,
Can you just clarify place and time?
Yeah, so it's Saturday, April 27th. It will be at Culture Lab again. And from 11:30 to 2:30. Of people arriving, the doors will be open at 11:30. We'll start the presentation, short presentation at noon, and then have kind of group participation.
Flyer, I'll be happy to send it around to the board.
Oh, great. Yes.
and in terms of some, I don't know, Lisa, are you available?
Sure.
I mean, just because you really have a history and kind of shepherded the comments on the one of your LLC.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think this is basically gonna be maybe support and reference to things that the board has supported in the
Yeah.
past. I don't think we have new content to offer, but so.
Yeah, it would just be kind of showing that you are in alignment with these ideas, that they're not new ideas, they're things that the community and the community board have advocated for years. And the recommendations and the draft plan are consistent really with all of that.
First of all, sounds like you've got a great team on this, and thank you for coming and presenting. I also want to just mention that I missed a couple of these meetings, so I just want to make sure I understand how this intersects with all the other stuff we're talking about. Obviously, there's the Hunters Point South, there's our LIC. I just want to make sure and like we've all also obviously done a land use study on the waterfront as well. I just want to understand sort of what the audience is of this, what you're hoping to do, and how this came to be.
So we have been working, advocating for resiliency for many years. Hunters Point Community Coalition started in the 1990s and gave input on the Queens West plan, actually had a big impact on what happened at Queens West in terms of Hunters Point South Park, which is gorgeous and we all love it and it's incredibly resilient. A lot of that was because of Tom Pano and the work that Bonnie and Tom did to push for that in contiguous green space along the waterfront, and also cross streets that were through streets. And so we have a long history in the community where residents, small business, we have people who have businesses, artists, professionals who've been part of Long Island City for many years. So that's who we are. The people who came to the event were really local residents from different parts of Long Island City. And we're trying to, bring more people in from Queensbridge, Blissville, different, Foot Square, different parts of, the community, not just Hunters Point. And in terms of where we are versus all the million other plans that are out there, I think what One LIC is looking to do is much more focused on, zoning and trying to bring new housing to the community. Isaac may a little differently, but that's, I think, how it's mostly seen. Sorry?
Do you mind if I add?
Oh, please do.
I just want to add that, it's really, this study is being led by a community-based organization that's leading its own planning study, as opposed to a city agency or a consultant, or it's really, it's a community-based organization that sought out funding to do kind of their own study for the community, and that's what's really great about it.
And I mean, historically, it predates the One LIC effort. I mean, you guys applied for the funding years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this
And-
grant that we got from Senator Gianaris, came through a couple of years. It took over a year to actually get the funds, but, we've been working at this for many, many years. And so we completely predate the stuff that's going on right now. And as Lisa said, it is very much community-based. And also the focus is squarely, as concerned as we are with economics and, services and infrastructure, many, many things, the focus is first on resiliency, because we see that as the most imminent, threat that would kind of undermine efforts at everything else, if we have serious flooding, and don't take heed, of what's going on in terms of storm surge and, sea level and, land that's, subsistence or whatever those terms. Subsiding. These are things that are happening rapidly and more rapidly than even predictions have called for. And so we're really focused first on that, in a way that's different from, I think, the city's focus.
Yeah, and also the consultant has that particular expertise in a way that,
Yeah.
Familiar with them.
And, I mean, we care about, we're not, we understand, the call for housing. We're just very concerned about, putting it right in those places that are the most vulnerable. And-
So I really appreciate the values that you've outlined. I know that in the hour I sat next to you at the LIC Summit, I learned more than I probably have in 2 months.
Oh, you mean when I went like this?
Yes, I also sounds like you've got a great team on it, and I love the community-centered values of it. When's it gonna be ready? And to whom do you hope to influence?
So the, draft, we're creating this draft plan that we'll present at the next workshop on the 27th. We'll have a couple weeks to get feedback, but, after the event and during and after the event. And then we'd like to release it to, the community and to electeds and, press, and try to just influence what's happening so that it's, whatever does get developed is aligned with, what's needed for resiliency and also a sustainable community and everything that creates a vibrant community, not just, beyond housing.
Awesome.
thank you, yeah.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll.
Yeah, email me.
Yeah, okay, and we'll send you guys a flyer, which we should have in the next, hopefully, a week or so. Thank you. I'm glad I found.
It's Google's
All
fault.
right,
Yeah,
any other new business before,
I know. Oh, go ahead. No,
The
I
other thing
do.
that I had, I put on the slide was, we heard from Donovan Richards at the CB2 meeting about the Queens Public Library. And the
Oh,
meeting that was
yes.
gonna have with, Brandon and
He
CBO.
wrote to me.
Yeah.
He texted me on like Friday night, I think, 10 o'clock, some crazy thing, and said that the meeting didn't quite bear the answers out that he wanted, and that there would be more information coming this week. He has not responded to my last text that I sent Monday. And then my sort of question, which is really this question, is do we want to, what do we want to do?
Intervene, do we want to intervene in any way? With the,
Because in
The
full
wall
disclosure, I
lines,
did
right.
text with Lisa.
Well,
I'm sorry.
I mean, I thought we had also put on the table and haven't done yet, I have to say, maybe my fault too. Inviting David Walkup to come and give us an update both on the library and on the other things that they promised.
yeah, that would
right?
be great. So let's
So,
can reach out to them. So.
all right, so we will put
There's
that
probably a lot of
on.
history here, but why reach out to David Walkoff and not with the public library about this?
Well, because he owns the building, I guess that's one.
Yeah,
one of
I
the
mean,
things he
so
promised.
there were other promises, as you all know, the community benefits agreement that has no real teeth.
Right.
There are a
We're
number-
learning how to give them.
There are a number of things in a letter that they did promise, and so it's to get them copied.
And then didn't also his father, senior, pass away in the middle of it, so there
Yeah.
was some ambiguity.
Yeah.
Bodies never die.
You're on camera.
Sorry.
You're live on YouTube.
Hi, everybody.
This is in perpetuating forever.
I see.
Okay. So, so we don't have a new update from Donna,
No, we
Bridget,
don't.
but we will pursue for our next meeting, an update in general on that.
Yeah, there was parkland behind by the taxi stadium, and there was some artwork that.
Right, and there's artist spaces, right?
The artist spaces, right, there's a number of art related,
Right.
things that they
Right.
offer.
I have to be honest, I took a little bit of frustration away from Donovan's message to me, because the night before he was so positive, he
Right.
came up to me and told me, and I could tell he was a little frustrated.
Should we reach out formally to the public library and ask?
The head of the Queens Public Library, just to avoid confusion, is
gonna say
Dennis Walcott,
Right.
not
That's what I thought we were talking about.
And Dennis is very cheeky.
Yeah, he is.
As opposed to the other Wyckoff.
I guess
It's
so.
really nice and confusing.
Well, so we would get updates from both sides of the negotiation.
Yeah.
They don't know that they'll come while they're negotiating. They don't historically come while they're in negotiation.
Got it.
But I
We
think,
will reach out.
yes, Nick.
I just wanted to make the note that, we did have our frustrations at the last meeting about the, sudden changeover at DCP, but I do want to just recognize that, Bruce done a great job, and we're happy to have her.
Yes, thank you. I'm sure things are, pretty hectic. right now. All right, any, Isaac?
Just so I
Just to come full circle, Councilmember One and Krishnan and Kavan and Abreu did send a letter requesting that the Parks Department extend big reuses license agreement in perpetuity. And that was just sent a day or two ago.
Okay.
So I'll
We get a
send that to
copy.
Debbie.
Great.
Thank you, Julie, or something. So
It is on Twitter already. Yeah,
Sorry, I don't go on Twitter unless I'm told to, so.
Well,
I'll send the link as well.
very civilized meeting. Any motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, thanks.
Do we have that sign-in sheet? Public sign-in sheet. Thank you, everybody.
I'll do that later.